In today's double feature, we have two micro malls in the southeastern mountains of Kentucky. And to start, we'll visit a mall right by the border of West Virginia, the Southside Mall in Williamson, Kentucky, and West Virginia for that matter. Southside Mall opened its doors for the first time in September 1981, its construction being an apparent co-venture between David Hocker and Richard E. Jacobs. The mall was a weird combination of strip mall and enclosed mall with Kroger, Super X Drug, Dawaharis, and R.H. Hobbs as original anchors. Kmart was also an original anchor and would join the party a few months late. Early on, R.H. Hobbs would already close by 1983, but the space would turn over relatively quickly to a store called Watson's, and Watson's would remain until 1998 when Peebles took over the Watson's nameplate. No rural mall is complete without a store like Goody's, Peebles, or Gordman's as an anchor somewhere in its life. Kmart, meanwhile, would close its doors in 2002 amid the bankruptcy at the time, and this space would get filled in by a more obscure discount store called Magic Mart. Additionally, the space would be subdivided for an auto mechanic and a very, very slim GameStop. A number of details for the mall's history was lost, but Kroger would eventually leave the area and would get replaced by a Tractor Supply. Dawaharis would also depart the mall, as well as Super X. But over time, the mall would gain a Sears hometown and would hide a 4-screen cinema in the back end of the mall. As of the making of this video, I do not know if it has reopened. Magic Mart, unfortunately, would depart the mall in 2016, and the chain would eventually go under a few years later. The space would be further subletted to make way for a games and hobby shop. Meanwhile, Peebles would turn over to Gordman's, and Gordman's would be forced to shut its doors for good thanks to the trash fire of 2020. And there's no telling if the theater will reopen or not, as I've mentioned before. This timeline sucks. However, the mall itself still continues on, hosting a modest array of stores, eateries, and services for you to visit. Okay, Southside Mall isn't the most attractive architecturally, but it certainly isn't the worst I've ever seen. I am still left wondering about the gray carpet though, as I still stand by my opinions on it from the Mercer Mall. It all feels like one giant Kmart breezeway, which I guess makes sense considering Kmart opened out into the mall a long time ago. This was one of those malls that had barely any coverage on it back in the day. A blogger named Jamie had visited this mall in the past, and someone cobbled together an album for Dead Mall enthusiasts on Facebook. And by demand, someone wanted me to go here, and I was able to integrate it into my trip to Kentucky. Now, I recall making a post saying that I visited awkward halfway malls like these because no one else will, but within 2 weeks of my visit, someone else threw a video together on this place. Sounds like someone wants to prove me wrong, but it's also possible it was just a coincidence. Maybe I have a secret admirer.
injected into the minds of infants. It's called social narcotics.
Regardless, it is good to get more eyes on places like these. We can kindle discussions and eventually bring together ideas for these malls. Whether or not we can fill them in, find new uses for the swaths of empty space, or just demolish and start over. Surely we can keep the footprint in use without having to blast more mountains for more, well, basically crap. Thanks for having me, South Williamson. But the spirit of Billy Mays compels me to say, but wait! There's more! Let's get back in the car and head west to see our next mall. And I opted to save the best for last this time. The Village Center Mall in Harlan is an adorable gem that's seemingly lost to time. Despite the silence that hangs in the halls, trust me, you're gonna love this one. Village Center Mall's roots were traced back to the early 80s, opening in 1983 with the original anchors Kroger, Kmart, Belk-Simpson, and an alternative anchor, Magic Mart. Sears, Super X, and Dawa Harris would also sign on as junior anchors. Village Center was a modest setup for Harlan, being a combination of a small mall and a strip mall, just like Southside. However, it still boasted some mainstays like Radio Shack and Disc Jockey. Since day one, the mall is still under ownership by the original owners based out of Harlan. The mall held up rather well, at least until the 90s when Walmart came in like a wrecking ball. By 1995, Kmart was gone, Kroger was gone by 2002, and then Magic Mart in 2003. Belk hung around at the mall, but would also flee by 2008. Additionally, papers had cited Harlan as a job desert, which led to it becoming an economically depressed area. However, the mall had not gone down without a fight, and is still going today, as you can see. As a side note, I can't help but admire the little setup here beneath the Belk facade. Photo sets have been set up outlining Harlan's history over the years, from conception to present day. Goodies would take over the old Magic Mart space, while a Big Lots filled in the vacancy left behind by Kmart. Meanwhile, the old Kroger space would become home to a local clinic. Unfortunately, we would lose Dawa Horace and Sears, which had operated as a hometown space for the longest time. And in recent times, Goodies would also be given the axe. Today, the mall is still operating, and the old Goodies space is being subletted to make room for Dollar Tree and Ace, the Helpful Place, according to a local of the area. Meanwhile, the old Belk space is being utilized by the mall for storage, but occasionally gets cleaned out for an event called the Festival of Mountain Masters, which I am told is hosted every Black Friday. While the glory days are gone, the mall itself still remains, persevering against all odds. Whatever may happen next, I wish the mall owners the best in the future. We're already almost done with this tour, but I will say, after finishing ahead of schedule, I couldn't help but sit down and relax in this mall, enjoying the silent but otherwise pleasant atmosphere this mall had to offer. My only problem was with the subway still open at the mall, which pumps the corridor full of that artificial bread smell. Ugh. Nonetheless, I would certainly recommend a visit if you are ever in the area. Seriously, you'll love this place. Thanks for having me, Harlan, Kentucky. And until next time, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you, and the Village Center Mall, and the Southside Mall, farewell, and good luck in the future.
I'm in danger.